Hey, how's it going everybody? ChanWin26 here, and today I'll be covering my very first set of battles in Retro Cup that I played on stream. The team that I use is Talonflame lead, Froslass, and Vigoroth. And some of you may be wondering, Chan, if you run into a very bad lead, what's your safe swap? And honestly, there's no fixed answers to that question. Froslass and Vigoroth can both function as a safe swap. It really just depends on the situation at hand, and, sometimes it's a matter of preference. But generally speaking, my safe swap is Vigoroth. It's also worth mentioning that prior to my games, I didn't do any research with regards to Retro Cup. Part of the fun when it comes to these GBL themed cups is not knowing what to expect. I like to take my games one at a time and seeing what the league has to offer and what, strategies players come up with. And, if I win, that's great. If I lose, that's fine too. I learned something along the way and I just continue playing. And I personally think that deep diving GBL metas and, these themed cups is kind of pointless. The elo range that I'm at, most of the players that I play are already legend, so they have the flexibility of not caring about their rating. They can play spice picks, unorthodox teams, and throw my preparation completely out the window. My general strategy when it comes to GBL is just, playing something I'm comfortable with and trying to play my best, and, hopefully that's enough. So let's get into my battles today and see, how I did. My very first battle is against Sarika Dixon. As you can see by the pose, they're a legend player. And by their jacket, they're level 50 players, so kudos to them. So Talonflame into Kingdra. Oh Jesus. Okay, so my immediate instinct is to safe swap right away. I safe swap to Vigoroth in this situation. And my main objective is to get as many counters and body slams as I can before they get their first charge move off. So I throw the body slam, it's up to them whether they want to shield or not. They decide to let it go, and as you can see, Kingdra in Great League is extremely fragile. That body slam basically did half its HP. We CMP tie here, and my opponent can either throw an Octazooka or an Outrage. I decide to let it go. They throw the Octazooka, and unfortunately for them, not only does that not KO, but they don't get the debuff. So they're put in the position whether they wanted to shield to preserve their switch advantage, or they let their Kingdra go. As you can see, they shield to preserve their advantage, and it makes sense, but yeah, I feel like I'm in a decent spot. So I could come in Talonflame and try to farm down the Kingdra, though that's extremely risky. So I just decided to play it safe and come in with Froslass and farm it down. So Froslass with an energy lead and a shield up is, pretty safe for the most part. I'm going to throw an Avalanche. And they bring in a Lickitung, so Lickitung in this meta is pretty strong. There are not many things that can hard punish it, and Lickitung is a very safe generalist. So, yeah, solid pick overall. Most Lickitungs have Body Slam and Power Whip, so, I have to shield, fearing for the Power Whip. I'm going to farm a bit extra just in case. I throw another Avalanche, and my opponent needs to decide whether they want to shield or not. They decide to let it go. And they have an Alteri on the back. So I'm going to throw one more Avalanche. Naturally, I'm going to get the shield, otherwise this is going to KO. I get their last shield, and I decide to swap out immediately. There's no point staying in with Froslass just because I know I don't get to another charge move. And letting them farm me down would be, costly. So I'm just going to throw their Brave Bird immediately. They don't have any shields, so this is going to land 100%. It does a large amount of damage. It basically leaves them at 25%. They're going to throw a Sky Attack, and I'm actually going to shield this just because they can't Dragon Breath me down before I can KO them. So they'll be forced to use any energy that they have. I get 2 Incinerates off. As you can see, there was a little bit of lag. I got a third Incinerate off worth of damage. But yeah, they throw the Sky Attack. They don't have enough energy for another move. So at this point, I just farm down with Froslass, and that's a GG. I'm a little surprised that they decided not to shield their Lickitung, considering they had an Alteri on the back. But maybe they were fearful they wouldn't be able to KO my Froslass in time, I'm not sure. So I'm going to pause the video right here. I'm just going to say right now, I played this matchup terribly. This was probably my worst match of the day. And honestly, there are times when I stream on Twitch, people say I'm trash, people say I'm a paid actor, people say, just some negative comment about the way I play. And sometimes I know they're joking because of it, you know, it's in good fun. But other times it's just like, you know, it's well deserved. And if someone told me I was a trash player based on this match, you know what? It's well earned, because I played this matchup so terribly. I watched this match like 3 times after I finished my stream, and I'm just like, what was I thinking? What was wrong with me? But you're gonna see what I mean. Surprisingly, I win this match. It's a match I shouldn't have won, but yeah, you're gonna see. So my second match against Dialqua, Talonflame into Pelipper, and obviously very unfavorable matchup, so I gotta get out of here. I decide to save swap into Vigoroth, and they save swap into a Abomasnow, which is extremely surprising. So basically, should I choose to do so, I can easily win swap in this matchup. The counters do super effective damage, and, you know, as long as I match them in shields, there's no way they can win this. So they shield the first body slam, I get my second body slam off, and I seriously doubt they double shield, but they could. We'll see. They let it go, and this essentially means that as long as I commit one shield, I will win switch advantage. You know, I kind of tunnel visioned. I definitely could have let my my Vigoroth go, but you know, switch advantage is very tempting considering they have a Pelipper. So I decide, you know what? They gave up swap, I'm gonna go for it. So I know they have a Pelipper. They can either bring that back in or reveal the third Pokemon. And they have a Froslass in the back, so Pelipper double ice. I'm a little surprised they didn't bring in Froslass into my Vigoroth, but you know, maybe it was a mistap, or maybe they had some other strategy in mind. I'm gonna get this Bulldoze off, which is nice. They let it go. You know, Bulldoze doesn't necessarily threaten a Froslass, and unfortunately for me, they farm me down. Again, Incinerate off, and they're gonna throw an Avalanche. So here's where I make my dumb play. In my head, I'm thinking, you know what? I got Incinerate off, they're probably gonna swap to transfer the damage, and they don't do that. So not only do I have to shield this at fear of a Shadow Ball, I shield an Avalanche. So insult to injury, I just failed, and then I epic failed, and then you know what? It's just like, at this point, the game is pretty much over. I probably lost this, but I'm just gonna play it out, you know. So I throw an Avalanche, and for whatever odd reason, they decide not to shield. So I'm a little surprised by that, but you know what? Maybe they're BMing me by the shield flex, and instead of going for the Hurricane, they go for the Weather Ball, which is really surprising. So, because they go Weather Ball, I get a few extra Powder Snows worth of damage off, which is going to be very costly for this Pelipper. So I get one Incinerate off, I get another one, and they faint before they get to a third Weather Ball. So now I just farm down this Froslass, and honestly, that game was so scuffed. I'm thinking to myself, Chan, you're such a baddie, man. Like, how do you throw that game so hard? But, you know, somehow they ran it back to my end zone, and they're just like, you know what, Chan? I feel bad for you. You played like crap, but I'm gonna give you the win anyways. So, you know, third match of the set, I'm thinking to myself, I'm a paid actor, I gotta redeem myself. You know, I can't continue playing like that on stream, no way. Then everybody's gonna think I'm crap. So Talonflame into a Lapras, definitely in favor in the Lapras, and I know technically I don't need to shield because I can take a Surf, so I decide to let it go. And I'm making the high risk play. I'm just gonna go for the Brave Bird instead of the Flame Charge. I'm not gonna get to another move, so it's just like, there's no point. Risk it for the biscuit, and my opponent doesn't shield, which is very fortunate for me. So they bring in a Dugong in response to my Vigoroth, which is actually pretty surprising. So this could mean one of two things. They have a special strategy in mind that I'm not aware of, or they're telegraphing and they're double weak to Vigoroth in the back. So, you know, we won't know until a bit later, but I get a Body Slam off, I grab one shield, which makes sense. They want to, you know, shield the full damage Body Slam. But fortunately for me, I get my second Body Slam off, and that's before they get the debuff off through the Icy Wind. So, you know, I could shield this to preserve the HP, or let it go, and in this situation, I let it go. So now I'm debuffed, and unfortunately I cannot counter down, so I have to throw a Body Slam. If I throw another Body Slam, it KOs the Dugong, and they bring in Politoed almost immediately. The Shady Politoed obviously takes more damage, and I'm just gotta do as many counters and Body Slams as I can for chip damage. And as you can see, even though I'm debuffed by the Icy Wind, these are really adding up. My opponent must have lost track of my energy, or they got really scared. Probably thought I was gonna get to another Body Slam, so they're gonna use some energy to KO me, but they definitely could have farmed me down at that range. So I could have come in Talonflame to absorb a Weather Ball worth of energy, but instead I try to play conservatively and I bring in Froslass. I don't know if my opponent's Politoed has Earthquake or not, so I shield the first one. And because I know that was too early, I decide to not shield because I know it's a Weather Ball. So I take about 50% worth of damage, and that's a little unfortunate. However, my opponent was expecting me to throw a move, trying to catch with the Lapras, and that just, puts a nail in the coffin. There's nothing they can do here. I have 2 Avalanches ready. I'm going to get their shield, and then I'm going to throw an Avalanche back to back. And at this range, it's definitely going to KO this Politoed 100%. Some nice crispy frog legs, and you know what? That's good enough for me. And that's a wrap. GG's. So, game 1, I think I played relatively well. Game 2 was completely scuffed, and honestly, I'm a boosted player that didn't deserve to win that. Game 3, I think I played okay for the most part. So, looking back on the games, not too bad so far. My 4th battle is against Jorn, or Yorn. And finally, I get a decent lead. Talonflame to Froslass, things are looking up for me. So they say swap into Vigoroth, and, I decide to stay in to pressure the Vigoroth. I either want to grab a shield or get some chip damage. Either one is perfectly fine with me. So I managed to pull a shield, which is really good. I also get an Incinerate worth of damage, which is also boosted because of the Flame Charge buff. So they're going to throw a Body Slam, I'm going to let it go. And my plan is to immediately swap to the Mirror matchup. Because they threw right away, the Body Slam is going to be caught by my own Vigoroth, which is really good. So we should be in sync in terms of energy, so my plan is to throw a Body Slam right away. Unfortunately for me, we CMP tie and my opponent wins it. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like my opponent undercharged that. Maybe they're expecting me to shield or something. I'm not 100% sure. I get my Body Slam off, and that kills the opposing Vigoroth. Opposing Froslass farms me down. It's a tricky situation, but in this situation, I come in with Talonflame. And fortunately for me, I get this Flame Charge off before they get their own charge move off. So let's see what they decide to do here. They decide to let it go, and that Froslass barely survived. Unfortunately for me, I was in the middle of an Incinerate animation, so I was slow on the swap. That means my opponent gets some extra counter damage. I shield the first Rock Slide. I can't afford to take any unnecessary risks at this stage. I get the Avalanche off, they shield. And our switch clocks are slightly distinct. Just that being said, it's not enough to, accommodate the time it takes me to get to another Avalanche. So I can throw immediately without having to worry about a potential catch. And this is going to KO the Machamp. The opposing Froslass has a move. It's going to be a Shadow Ball and KO my own Froslass. So at this point, it comes down to a fast move game. Unfortunately for me, my Talonflame just had exactly enough HP to survive 2 Powder Snows. And, you know, one more would have done the trick, but unfortunately, Incinerate 2 OP and, you know, it demolishes the Froslass in the end. Final match of the set. As you can see, they also implemented the, you know, the dodging mechanic or the dodging mitigation in, you know, GBL matchmaking, which is really nice. You may have noticed it during that loading time. Talonflame into Dugong. Unfortunately, it's not the greatest matchup. It's definitely not the worst, but very tricky to play out. My plan here was to throw a Brave Bird and hopefully try to reset immediately. Unfortunately for me, not only does my opponent shield, but we CMP tied. So I have to make the decision to preserve the HP or to swap out. So I shield, preserve the HP because I'm debuffed, and then I swap out. These counter damages are really adding up because they do super effective damage. I also get the body slam out before my opponent gets their Icy Wind off. They decide to let it go, which makes sense. I assume my opponent wants to Icy Wind debuff me and then swap out. There would be no real reason to stay in with Dugong at this stage after I give up swap. So they bring in an Altaria, and that's definitely not good for me. Vigoroth is known for its spam, but unfortunately it's not as potent when you're debuffed by an Icy Wind. My opponent is well aware of that, so they don't have to shield anything at any risk. Gonna get another Body Slam off. And as you can see, these Body Slams and counters are starting to add up. Unfortunately for me, my opponent just farms me down with Altaria. So my plan here is, because my opponent is loaded with energy, my plan is to sack my own Talonflame. Opponent throws almost immediately, and at this stage, I have to gamble on my Froslass. Let's hope it's enough to deal with the remaining Pokemon in his team. My opponent decides to bring in Dugong, which is actually quite interesting. I threw an Avalanche because, you know, it's double resisted. That being said, if it doesn't KO, I get an extra bit of farm to compensate. And my opponent brings in Altaria again, which I feel like is a huge mistake. I feel like there's no reason to do that, especially when you have a Snorlax in the back. You're not going to get to a move on Altaria, so unless you wanted that little bit of chip damage through the Dragon Breath, it really just not really worth it. So at this point, I have to shield something. Snorlax has Body Slam and most likely Superpower, but if I take the Body Slam, I'll probably be in Lick range. So essentially, I need 2 Avalanches. I already got their shield, so I just need to throw back-to-back immediately. I get the Avalanche off, and as you can see, I did tap my charge move. However, it looked like there may have been a turn of desync, I'm not 100% sure, or it could have been a bonafide CMP. I would have to double check, but I believe it takes 12 turns to get to 1 Body Slam, so I don't think they were at enough for another one, unless there was a, you know, one-sided lag on my end. So unfortunately, I didn't get my 5-0, but that being said, it was a very close game. And like I said, I'm not sure whether or not the lag had impacted the result, but it's also just the way GBL is from time to time. Nothing we can really do about it, but yeah, we just have to learn to accept it for what it is and just move on. So I go 4-1 to end off the very first set, and I climb up to 3147. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck in your, your future Retro Cup battles, and I'll see you guys in the next video.